We're here today in beautiful Fort Lauderdale at Bahia Mar Yachting Center, and we're going to talk about should you buy a charter catamaran or just go with a private catamaran. We refer to non-chartered cats as private catamarans. So if you're thinking about buying a cat, you probably noticed something a bit strange. A 5-year-old charter catamaran might sell for $300,000 less than a similar privately owned boat. So the big question becomes, are charter catamarans incredible bargains or expensive mistakes? After 37 years of selling yachts and helping buyers navigate this exact decision, I can tell you that the answer is not as simple as most brokers make it sound. And in this video, I'll walk you through whether charter catamarans are actually good deals, which brands tend to hold up best in charter fleets, the biggest buying mistakes that I see buyers make, and why many experienced buyers hire a third-party buyer's advisor like me before purchasing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gary Fretz. I've been a licensed yacht broker since 1989, and I've been involved in more than 1,500 yacht transactions, most of them catamarans, both sailing and power. And I founded the world's largest sailing yacht brokerage and ran it for 10 years. So I'm just starting to get the hang of this thing. Now, because of that experience, I've seen just about every scenario imaginable when charter yachts enter the resale market. There's a small one right there. This is the Intercoastal, by the way. It goes almost all the way to New York, and I've done that trip twice, up there and back, and I would definitely do it again. It's a great trip, and I'm happy to share my experiences with anybody that wants to know. So anyhow, why are there so many charter cats? It's estimated that 75 to 85% of all new cats go into charter management for the first 5 years of their life. And these boats are placed into fleets in places like the British Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, St. Martin, Grenada, Belize, and about 30 other places around the world. And charter guests rent the boat week after week for about 5 years, which is the typical length of a charter management program. And after that, the fleet operator sells the yacht. This creates a steady pipeline of relatively new catamarans entering the resale market every year. And that's when buyers start seeing very tempting prices in some cases. Let's talk about charter boat depreciation. And here's something that many buyers don't fully understand. Charter cats are usually designed to operate for about 5 years in heavy service. During that time, the engines usually attain 2,000 to 5,000 hours. In the location of the British Virgin Islands, which is the busiest location for charters in the world, I'd say 70% of all the charters happen there. The typical bareboat charter boat ends up with about 4,000 hours at the end of the charter life, and most of these engines will go about 7,500 hours. So they're a little more than half life at that time. But in some of the locations that aren't so popular, like Belize, Grenada, Martinique, and so on, the engine hours could be way lower. Like I've seen them 1,500 to 2,000 hours. Now, those are boats that you want to focus on because some of them look almost new. And the prices in those far out locations are relatively low because some buyers are just afraid to go way out in the middle of nowhere and buy a yacht. But I am not. I've been doing this a long time, and those are where some of the best deals are. So you might wonder, well, which catamaran brands handle charter use the best? Some are specifically designed with charter durability in mind, and some are designed also for another purpose which is long distance cruising live aboard. Okay. Now, a charter boat doesn't need a lot of storage because the typical charter party will have groceries for a week. They're limited by what they can bring on the airliner down there. So they're not going to have a lot of stuff. So some brands are really only built for charter. And if you live on them, there's no place to store your stuff away. So that's something that you need to keep in mind, because I've been on many of these boats that really are just built for charter. And you go on them and there's just junk everywhere, all over the counters, because there's nowhere to store them away. So I always look for something that's got a lot of storage so you can put your stuff away, live in a little bit of neatness. And that would be lagoons. And leopards are getting better with that. But I'd say lagoon has the most storage. Okay, so let's compare charter boats versus private owner boats. Okay, so which is better? Well, a private owner boat usually has fewer engine hours, less wear and tear, more upgrades for long distance cruising, but they'll almost always cost significantly more. A charter boat, on the other hand, usually offers a much lower purchase price, professional maintenance records, but they're usually equipped differently. For example, a private boat, a non-charter boat, would usually have a large solar array, water makers, and really nice tenders or dinghies. Well, why is that? Well, charter bases don't put all this other equipment on the boats because they usually provide shore power and dock water, so the boats aren't really outfitted for long off-grid cruising. They also use standardized dinghies with smaller engines, and there's a reason for that. Charter guests sometimes have a few too many rum drinks, and then they go joyriding in the dinghy, and so a slower tender with a small engine, like a 3 or 4 horse, helps keep them out of trouble. And in some fleets, many fleets, the bareboat yachts don't even have their own dinghy. What happens is every time they go out on a charter, the charter base simply loans one of their identical tenders to each yacht as needed. And so the yacht never really did have a dinghy. Oh, look at this expedition yacht. It looks like it could almost break icebergs apart. Not many sailboats here this time of year because the sailboats go to the Bahamas, which is only about 50 miles to my left, to our left. And that's why you see a lot of powerboats here. Okay, so let's talk about the hidden costs that buyers miss. Okay, and now this is where many buyers get surprises. Okay, and now when a charter boat leaves a fleet, it often needs a dinghy and an outboard motor, new sails and canvas, new upholstery, electronics upgrades, a generator, engine and sail drive servicing, and cosmetic repairs. Ooh, these are kind of big. Now, these upgrades can sometimes add $50,000 to $150,000 to a yacht that's worth like $400,000 to $500,000. So that's why understanding the true total cost of ownership is critical. You want to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and not each of those to each other. Now, let's talk about common catamaran buying mistakes. There's several mistakes I see buyers making again and again. And just remember, many cat builders design boats primarily for charter companies. And what makes a good charter cat doesn't always make a good live aboard long distance cruiser. Many charter focused designs lack adequate storage, and if you plan to live aboard or cruise long distances or cross oceans, you need space for extra provisions, spare parts, extra tools, personal gear. Without that, the boat quickly becomes cluttered. Another mistake is falling in love with the price without fully understanding the boat's condition. Okay? Another is mistake that I see is rushing the survey process. Don't rush it. That's a really important aspect to evaluating the yacht. Another common mistake is assuming that charter companies' maintenance records tell the whole story, because sometimes they don't. And you must rely on the surveyor to see through all that and to get to the bottom of any problems that the yacht will have, because they have tools that we don't have that help them find things that we can't even see when we look at the yacht. So a good surveyor often finds issues that the buyers never saw or expected. All right, let's talk about the hassles of buying charter boats. Buying charter yachts can involve logistical challenges. For example, many of them are located in remote areas, and some locations do not even have a proper haul out facility so we can look at the bottom. We want to see if that boat's been run aground hard. We want to see the running gear. We want to look at possible osmotic blisters, and you need to haul it out to do that. You can hire a diver, but it's usually not enough. And if you're getting a loan or an insurance policy that covers you in exotic areas, they may require a haul out inspection as well. And so you want to check that in advance before you hire a surveyor and go down there. In other locations, surveyors might only visit part of the year. That is, like in some of the English islands, they go back to England in the summer when it gets real hot down in the Caribbean. And they want to be back in jolly old England cooling off, because they've been burning up the rest of the year. Now, another hassle of buying charter yachts is as fleets release their boats, there may be many buyers competing for the same yachts. That's why timing and preparation matter. And I can help you with that. I've been doing this 37 years, so I know when the market gets flooded with yachts, and I know when the buyers are out there in force and you got a lot of competition. So you want to try and avoid those times. Next, let's talk about why some buyers hire a buyer's advisor like me. That's because these complexities are usually beyond what most people's experience allow them to evaluate the vessels with, you see? And so I usually accompany the buyers, and I will help evaluate the condition of the yacht, pricing, because I have all the proprietary selling price histories of every model sold since 1998. I can help with negotiations, and I know what generally you can get away with, and I can help you with long-term ownership costs. So in my own work, I often serve in the role of a buyer's advisor, and I help you avoid expensive mistakes and identify the best opportunities. Think of me like your navigator. We were going on a long voyage, which buying a yacht could sometimes be. But I'll navigate you through the hazards and make it easy. Okay, so in summary, should you buy a catamaran that was in charter? Well, the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. A charter boat can be an excellent value if the boat's been well maintained and they keep records showing that, and if the price reflects its true condition, and if the buyer understands the upgrades that may be required, like a dinghy or solar panels or water makers or whatever. And I think most importantly, if you can find one that gets a full refit guarantee, that can be one of the best deals out there. Well, what is that? Well, when some of these yachts were sold new, the charter company gave the first owner a transferable refit guarantee. That means that at the end of its charter management period, which is usually 5 years, sometimes 6, they guarantee to fix any defects found at survey by your accredited surveyor, with the exception of minor cosmetic issues. So, if you have a little scratch here or there, like the size of a quarter, or a stain on a floor or a cushion, they're not going to fix that. But the major things that make a big difference to your bank account, they're going to fix it if the surveyor says it's not in good condition. So if you're considering buying a catamaran in the next year and you want to understand the opportunities and risks, feel free to reach out to me. I also have a free report called Insider Secrets to Buying Catamarans. It goes into much more detail than what we can cover in this short video. You can find my contact information at my website, largecatamaransforsale.com. Until then, smooth sailing.